thanking you all for finally finding the location, this beautiful museum here in Amsterdam. I would like to welcome everyone to the opening ceremony of the European Robotics Week in 2016 in this beautiful location here in the Heikkilä Museum. I hope I pronounced it more or less correctly in Dutch. And I'm glad to welcome all of you here. Especially in mentioning, I would like to welcome Mady, member of the European Parliament, Juha, representative, head of unit of the Robotics and AI unit in the European Commission, DG Connect, but also our president from euRobotics and also the chief innovation officer of KUKA, Bernd Liepert, and additional speaker, Aimee from Wynsberghe. I hope I somehow correctly Wynsberghe. She's a professor of ethics and technology at the University of Training. First of all, I also like to thank all the people who helped setting up this nice event, and last but not least the sponsors, namely it's KUKA, it is Robotics, and it's a group of municipalities around the municipality of Leichendam-Voorburg, but also Rijswijk, Pijnacker, Norddorp, and Dovenvoort. I hope again to have it pronounced more or less correctly.
The microphone, can everyone hear him well? Sorry to interrupt. Can anyone hear him well? Is better this?
I can take the mic as well.
Good pronunciation in Dutch.
Thank you so much. And Ewan, just stay here. I also would like to thank the local organizers of the whole event for all the activities which are ongoing and coming for the European Robotics Week in the next coming days. It's the group of Hectarians represented especially by Julian, Roland, and Simone here for this local organization. Thank you very much. And of course, I'm very grateful that the team at euRobotics, Philip, Lavinia, and Marco, invested quite a bit of work to have this event organized and happening. Maybe the ones who came a bit earlier have seen some nice, beautiful black and white pictures, and thanks, Wanda Childens, for presenting them during this round. You will have later on also the chance to see more of these beautiful black and white pictures here. But now I would like to hand over the microphone to Juha Heikkilä from the European Commission, DG Connect, Robotics and AI unit, to say a few words about the Robotics Week and the role of DC.
Okay. Goedemorgen, dames en heren. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Juha Heikkilä, the head of the Robotics and Artificial Intelligence Unit at the European Commission. It is indeed a great pleasure for me to be here today, and I am in fact honored to be here on behalf of the Commission to present the views of the Commission and say a few words to kick off this European Robotics Week at the opening ceremony here. This Robotics Week is now actually a well-established series of events which is typically held in November or December, and it's, in my view, characterized by this organic bottom-up nature, this, if you like, grassroots activity which is brought together under a common theme, and this time it's robots at your service. Now, in order to explain to you how I feel and how we feel in the European Commission about this Robotics Week, I would like, if I may, take a bit of a detour via the advances of technology. The boundaries of technology are pushed forward by human curiosity, you would argue. Inquiring minds make new discoveries through dedication, hard work, goal-oriented, goal-driven pursuit, but also through a bit of luck and serendipity. This curiosity leads to innovation, new solutions, new inventions, and new technology. Over the course of history, we have seen that these innovations can bring a lot of benefits to the world. The fruits of this pursuit can make our lives better by lightening the burden of work, leisure. It helps us to accomplish things more easily and quickly, making our lives in many ways, in countless ways, more straightforward. We take much of this for granted, and we don't really think about it very much at all. It is probably fair to say that this pace of scientific and technological progress has accelerated, and the younger generation, for example, have never experienced a time without mobile phones. Those of you who may be more mature in the audience will remember we had to dial, pick up the receiver and dial, and so on. There was in fact a very funny test made by a newspaper in Finland some time ago where they gave an old-fashioned phone to youngsters of today, and they didn't realize that they had to pick up the receiver and then only start dialing. Anyway, robotics is what we're talking about here, and I think that this is an area where this technological progress has gathered a lot of pace. And as we all know, robots are getting out of cages, and they are increasingly beginning to serve people in very many different ways in new areas. So they are increasingly used in all kinds of industry, not just in the large-scale manufacturing, such as automotive, but also in other areas. So this old mainstay of robots has no longer a monopoly for robotics. So you find robots in inspection and maintenance, where they can significantly increase the efficiency and relieve humans of dangerous jobs in toxic and hostile environments. Robotics and artificial intelligence-based technologies also used in agriculture, where advances in precision agriculture is helping reduce pesticide and fertilizer use, for example. Another big potential area is healthcare. Robotic surgery or robotic-assisted surgery is able to help surgeons relieve their fatigue or increase the precision of operations. Likewise, many different kinds of rehabilitation applications will help restore some of the lost abilities or functionalities. These are but a few examples of what robots can these days do and where they are increasingly used. So in some, robots help productivity, and they help address numerous societal challenges, as I have mentioned. But in addition to that, robots are also gradually making inroads into the domestic sphere. Lawnmowers and vacuum cleaners are getting more and more commonplace. They are found increasingly at homes, and gradually our service and assistance functions become possible and commonplace. Artificial intelligence are at the heart of digital innovation and smart interconnected systems of today and tomorrow. They are amongst those technologies which drive the digitalization process of our economies, which leads to changes in transformation in products, production processes, and business models. So, robots are becoming smarter, more capable, and more commonplace. And maybe in the not too distant future, there will be a generation which has grown up with robots just like the younger generation today has grown up with mobile phones. Nevertheless, this progress of technology causes concerns, even fears. And the unknown future power and extent of this technology, and the extent of the change of this technology, raises doubt and uncertainty in the minds of the general public. This is very clearly reflected in the two euRobotics studies that we conducted in the European Commission in 2012 and 2014. Among the findings, we learned that as many as 89% of, but on the other hand, 64% of people thought basically had a positive view of robots, and 72% of the respondents considered robots a good thing because they can help them. So the picture is mixed. There's both concerns and some optimism. The most interesting finding, however, was perhaps the one according to which the familiarity with robots tended to make people less concerned about robots. So those who have been in contact with robots, not necessarily physically, but have familiarity with them, they tend to have fewer concerns, they tend to have fewer fears. So familiarity eliminated fears. And this is, I think, precisely where the European robotics league steps in. This kind of distributed bottom-up nature of its activities makes it possible for citizens to go to a robotic lab or company nearby in their region and gain familiarity with this technology. University labs and departments and companies dealing with robots open up their doors and let the public meet and greet robots and their makers. Robotics demos, lectures, courses, and guided tours will be organized, often specifically designed for target groups, for example, children. So citizens can ask questions and have the technology, its limits, capabilities, and potential explained to them. The public can see, feel, and even try out robots. This way they can acquire first-hand experience and information of what robots can and cannot do. This is a good thing, because this way citizens will be able to form a better informed view of this technology. It is indeed the responsibility of those who deal with this area, who work in this field and fund this work, to explain what it is about and what it brings. This concerns researchers, companies, funding agencies, and policymakers alike. It is then obviously for every citizen to decide on the basis of this information how enthusiastic or concerned they are about this technology. The previous editions of the European Robotics Week have been a resounding success. The public have wholeheartedly accepted the invitation to find out more about robotics and visit the labs and companies. It testifies to the curiosity that robotics arouses in the minds of the public. The events have also attracted a great deal of media attention, and this is an indirect way then for some of the public to get in touch with some of the events that have been organized. I have absolutely no doubt in my mind that this 2016 edition will again be tremendously popular. If anything, robotics is even more in the headlines than before, due to its progress, due to its increased visibility. Here in Amsterdam, over 5 days starting today, there will be an impressive program consisting of a broad range of events such as debates, exhibitions, workshops and hackathons. More broadly, altogether more than 500 events will be organised in Europe, centred around the theme of robots at your service. Thanks to this, a very large part of the European population will have an opportunity to gain first-hand experience of robotics. This, of course, requires a great deal of effort and hard work. Therefore, I would like to extend my warmest thanks to all those all over Europe who make themselves available to demonstrate and explain robotics and work towards the robotics week and make it a success. It is there at the local level where the impact will be greatest. I would also like to thank euRobotics for coordinating this event and providing it an umbrella, if you like. It brings the necessary coherence and allows information about the offer to be readily available. Last but not least, I would like to thank all the local organisers here in Amsterdam and all those who contribute to, in one way or another, with their efforts to the success. So this sums up my thoughts on behalf of the Commission on the one hand, and also my personal views on how I see this European Robotics Week. And without further ado then, I would like to wish everyone a very enjoyable, exciting and informative Robotics Week, and I hope you enjoy it too. Thank you very much indeed.
For your opening speech, and I would like to pass the microphone to Bernd, the President President of euRobotics and Chief Innovation Officer of KUKA.
Good morning, everybody, and warm welcome from my side too. I was a little bit in fear that it might be hard to speak after Juha, and I think it became true because it was a wonderful overview about European robotics and the European Robotics Week and all the topics we want to address and all the fears and needs we have. But please let us do, in addition, a small deep dive into one future scenario. Please think about one day in the life of your grandchildren. Think about the technologies being available and think about which technologies our grandchildren might be willing to use. Autonomous driving, virtual personal assistants, autonomous delivery, robot assistants, elderly care robots, perhaps taking care of us. And some of these topics are already close to products. Autonomous driving, that's an ongoing discussion, and the autonomous delivery, I saw a report from DHL that they are already delivering medical stuff to islands with drones autonomously. I think that's something which will happen. There will be some other visions which might not become truths, hopefully not become truths, and they will stay visions. But our grandchildren, that's for sure, will grow up as the first generation are robot natives. And we will be the first generation of robotic immigrants with a lot of concerns. You don't believe? Then take a look to the facts. The UN expects a global shortage of manpower in 2050. In 2040, the expectation of life will be 92.4 years. Seems to be good if you don't have to work till 75 or 80 or whatever might happen. 2030, more than 53% of the world population will live in cities. And on the other side, 43% of young people living in Mexico City already today don't take care about the driver's license and about their own car. For sure there will be challenges and people will worry about, especially in the case of disruptive innovations. Remember the first trains many years ago, and there was a report that everybody will be killed if he is moving faster than 30 miles per hour. The first cars, a man with a red flag had to walk in front of a car because cars are so dangerous. Today, I believe there would be no globalization without no mobility without the car industry. And there are a lot of more examples from history. But we are able to do better, and we will do better in creating the future for our grandchildren. Today we will set the course, and euRobotics will set the course with more than 250 members from 25 countries. We are analyzing the future, preparing our strategic research agenda, inviting shareholders, stakeholders through topic groups, defining lighthouses, and last but not least, addressing all the difficult topics like robotic governance. The future of robotics means human-robot interaction. Robots out of the cage, robots getting from industry machines to elderly care systems to home assistant robots. Robotic and automation, that's the future, not only for us, but for more than 200,000 people over the last 5 years participating in the European Robotic Weeks. Over the last 5 years, they visited more than 750 events in 31 countries, for example in 2015. And today, the European Robotic Week 2016 starts, and for sure, we will do better than we did last year. Welcome, many thanks to the organization over here, and let's have a lot of good discussion and a lot of fun over the next couple of days with the topic robotics. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having officially opened the Robotics Week. And now I may pass the microphone on to Aimee van Wynsberghe, Professor of Ethics and Technology at the University of Twente.
University of Twente. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me here today. As said, my name is Aimee van Wynsberghe. I am assistant professor at the University of Twente, but I'm also the president of the Foundation for Responsible Robotics, which is a not-for-profit organization established here in the Netherlands with the goal of bringing academics together with industry. So I was asked to speak this morning to give an added layer, I guess, to the conversation, that layer being ethical and societal issues, and how can we address these while at the same time, paying tribute to all of the wonderful things that robotics are going to provide for individuals and society at large. So to begin, I thought I might say a few words on what ethics is. And of course, I won't make this an incredibly academic talk, I know, the forum that I'm at, but just so that we're all on the same page and something to think about as we go through the next couple of days. So ethics is about the good life. Really, what does it mean and how do we achieve it? Concept and the practical dimension, how do we actually achieve it? There's a lot of values, principles, rights, freedoms that are constitutive of this concept of ethics, right? And so it's important for us to have these values respected in order for us to feel like we're living a good life. Yeah? So then where do robots come in? Well, of course, robots are going to contribute to our conception of the good life as well as how we achieve the good life in the not-so-distant future. So for robot ethics, there's a variety of dimensions then that we can think of. We can think of the ethics of the robots themselves. So is it possible for us to program ethical reasoning into the robot? So the robot becomes an ethical agent. That's one way of doing it. We can think of the ethics of the people who are using the robot, so all of us who will be buying a robot or interacting with the robot at the shopping mall or the bank or something. Should there be some kind of an ethical code for how we treat the robot? And we can also think about the ethics for the engineers and designers, right? Should there be some sort of an ethical code for, when you're involved in this practice? Are there certain things that you must always adhere to? Certain things that you should never sort of do? Certain values that you must have that are integral to your own decision-making process? So there's a variety of things to think about when you actually hear the term or the phrase robot ethics. And why is this important? Well, of course, we've heard about all of the wonderful things that robots are going to contribute. Healthcare is one dimension, robots in agriculture, search and rescue robots, sex robots even, right? If you want to be more provocative. So there's an incredible amount of beneficial consequences, of positive consequences that we will have from this technology. And at the same time, the media is also quick to point out that there is the potential for negative consequences, right? With any new technology, this is something that's going to happen. And this could be anything from, the ownership of data. What happens to our data when we're encountering a robot in a store or in a hospital or something like that, right? This could be, if we're talking about the healthcare domain, social isolation. If we're providing individuals in their homes with robots that can provide an incredible benefit by allowing them to stay in their home longer. At the same time as all of these positive benefits, there are other considerations that we must pay attention to. And the reason why it's important to pay attention to these things now is because we're at a stage where we can actually mitigate or overcome some of these negative consequences through our design choices, through our infrastructure, through policy, through regulation, through making choices like that. So, what's also important to remember about ethics is that it's not just about saying no. Now, of course, I understand that the traditional view of the ethicist is, the person who comes in and says, don't do this is just not a good idea, please, just back away, let's just not go there, right? But I also want to give a fresh perspective to ethics, that it's not just about us saying no. The ethicist is also there to point out the good, to show just how much good can come from robots in a healthcare setting that are helping to deliver sheets of medications throughout the hospital, that are freeing up the time of the nurses so that they can engage in the human-to-human interaction. So if the ethicist is there to point out the good, the next step is, how can we steer in the direction of this good? So something that's really necessary in this conversation that we're having. So my personal research is looking at healthcare robots. How can we incorporate ethics into the design process of these robots? And really what I try to do is to study capabilities of the robot. So if we take robots that could be used for lifting, these are necessary in nursing home context, in hospital context, right? Because care workers are throwing at their backs. They actually need some assistance to do these kinds of tasks. If we do a more well-rounded analysis and we think about the practice of lifting, not just in terms of the mechanical, I have to lift you up at this degree with this speed of force and move you into the chair, it's not just about the mechanical dimension, right? In a hospital, lifting is really important in terms of forming a relationship, forming a bond between caregiver and care worker. There's also a lot of other things that are happening at this moment, right? Touch is important. The caregiver is often testing the temperature of the skin of the individual, or looking into their eyes, or asking them questions, and testing the neurological status. Does Mrs. Smith know what day it is today? Do I have to assess the situation a little bit differently? But the relationship is something that's so important for the overall process of care of these care receivers. So if we can establish a relationship and trust throughout this practice of lifting, this helps make sure that the patient will take their medication, will be honest about their care symptoms, will comply with their care plan. If we don't have this moment anymore, we have potentially threatened the opportunity for good care of the patient in the end. So if we're thinking about robots, an autonomous robot for lifting, that might actually fundamentally uproot these practices and these processes. Alternatively, you could think about an exoskeleton, a robot that a nurse wears so they don't feel any of the weight that they're actually lifting. You maintain the presence of the nurse. You maintain all of these components, from the verbal communication to making eye contact, having these discussions. You maintain all of the fundamental care values of the practice while you're incorporating the technology in a way that does good for the care worker. So it's really one of those win-win-win situations. So looking for the good and trying to steer us in the direction of the good. At the same time, consider individuals in their home receiving care, right? They've already established a relationship. If we're talking about spouses caring for one another or a parent and child, they don't need all of these same opportunities or moments to establish a relationship. So in that particular setting, the autonomous robot would be a more dignified form of care. So the idea is having these, reflections on the kind of future in healthcare or the kind of future in home care that we actually want to have by taking in this additional dimension. Now, my work with the Foundation for Responsible Robotics comes in the sense that there's a lot of work happening in the academic world right now where we make these kinds of evaluations and we look at, what will the impact be on human-human interaction? How do we articulate human-robot interaction? What is going on here? How do we promote social acceptance? But there seems to be somewhat of a breakdown, at least in the humanities, between all of this research that's being done and turning it into concrete action. So the work in the foundation is really about how can we bring the academic disciplines together, and then how can we have these conversations with the industrial partners, trying to figure out what is the best way to do this. And of course, we're at a moment now where policy, legislation, regulations, we are in the process of developing these, and we would like to contribute to that to help make policy in a way that doesn't stifle innovation. Because, again, I repeat this idea, I I don't mean to stand here as the ethicist saying, no, we shouldn't do robots at all. But I mean to say, let's do this in a way where we can imagine the future of our grandchildren who probably won't remember a time when there wasn't robots around. And what are the things that we want to make sure we contribute to, that we can do right now in the design, in the development process, the kinds of materials that we use, with the kind of responsibilities that the engineers will take on themselves. So my main message then, I guess, as you continue throughout the rest of today, and as you continue throughout the rest of the week, to just sort of be a bit more critical about this idea of good, or this idea of better. So at first glance, you'll think, oh, this is great, this is really wonderful, and then think, what does good actually mean here? And is there something else that we should probably take into consideration? And maybe it's just a small adjustment we could make to the robot, or to the policy that implements the robot. Thank you very much for your time.
Beautiful introduction here. And we are almost coming to the end of this official opening. And I would like to thank all the speakers, all the participants for being here. And the program for the rest of the day is as follows. We will have now the chance to see the exhibition, have some snacks, a short lunch in a while. And here in this room we will have the panel discussions later on about the roboethics and the robotics future. And in parallel we have some other workshops, for example, a regulatory workshop, but they are not here, they are in another building at Commander's Home. And if you have the flyer, you can find the location, but we can also go with the group together to the other rooms. Thank you very much for being here. Enjoy the opening of the Robotics Week, enjoy the exhibition, enjoy the panel discussions and the workshops later on. And I hope that you all learn a lot, bring in your own thoughts, and that you have possibly the chance to interact with the robots much more in the future. As a last remark, we also have a setup of a kind of artificial intelligence pseudo-holography presentation. It's also in the exhibition area, and you're most welcome to interact with this piece. Thank you very much.